Please subscribe to support the channel. What if the first message we send into space becomes the last sound humanity ever makes? Every radio wave, every cosmic whisper we've ever released is a flare in the dark, a declaration that we exist, echoing through a universe we don't understand. We imagine contact will bring enlightenment, peace, or friendship, but what if it brings annihilation instead? In a cosmos that may be teeming with unseen watchers, silence could mean survival. Maybe the reason the stars are so quiet is because everyone who ever spoke was silenced forever. The silence of the universe is not just eerie, it's mathematically impossible to ignore. For if the universe is truly as immense and ancient as we know it to be, then our loneliness should be statistically absurd. And that question, that gaping void between probability and reality, brings us to one of the most haunting mysteries in all of science, the Fermi Paradox. It began, as all great questions do, with a simple observation. In the summer of 1950, the brilliant Italian physicist Enrico Fermi, one of the minds behind the first nuclear reactor and a pioneer of modern physics, sat down for lunch with a few colleagues at Los Alamos National Laboratory. As they chatted about recent reports of UFO sightings, Fermi suddenly blurted out something that silenced the table. Where is everybody? It was more than idle curiosity. It was the realization of a contradiction so deep it still unsettles astrophysicists today. The universe, as we've discovered, is staggeringly vast. The Milky Way alone, our home galaxy, contains somewhere between 100 and 400 billion stars, and perhaps even more planets than stars. Modern astronomy suggests that nearly every star hosts at least one planet, and a significant portion of those may lie within the habitable zone, that delicate region where temperatures allowed liquid water to exist, the most essential ingredient for life as we understand it. Now multiply that by the hundreds of billions of galaxies in the observable universe, each one a cosmic city filled with billions of suns, each potentially surrounded by worlds teeming with oceans, clouds, and maybe even civilizations. The math is mind-bending. There could be trillions of habitable planets in the universe, perhaps even billions in our own galaxy alone. And yet, despite decades of searching, we see nothing. No alien radio signals cutting through the noise, no megastructures orbiting distant suns, no fleets of starships crossing interstellar space, no clear signs, none, that anyone else is out there. The sky, for all its brilliance, remains dead silent. That's the paradox. Given how likely life seems to be, given how long the universe has existed, why don't we see anyone else? If even one civilization in the Milky Way had developed interstellar travel millions of years ago, it could have explored or colonized the entire galaxy many times over by now. Even moving at a fraction of light speed, the Milky Way could be traversed in a few million years, a blink of an eye in cosmic terms. So where are the explorers? Where are the colonists? Where are the signs of intelligent design scattered across the stars? Fermi's question slices to the heart of cosmic optimism. Either intelligent life is extraordinarily rare, a miracle so improbable that we may truly be alone, or something is preventing civilizations from lasting long enough to reach out. Maybe most planets never develop life at all. Maybe life does emerge, but intelligence is the exception, not the rule. Maybe civilizations, like candles, burn brightly for only a moment before they extinguish themselves through war, resource depletion, or catastrophe. Or maybe, and this is the most chilling thought of all, civilizations do reach out only to be destroyed when they do. The Fermi Paradox forces us to confront the possibility that the silence of the cosmos is not an accident, it's a clue. It tells us that something profound may be happening on a galactic scale. It suggests that the universe is not just indifferent to life, but perhaps hostile to it. Think about it. If the universe were full of advanced civilizations, we should see evidence of their existence everywhere. A Type 2 civilization, one capable of harnessing the full energy of its star, would leave an unmistakable mark. Massive Dyson spheres or swarms absorbing starlight, enormous radio transmissions pulsing through the galaxy, deliberate signals of power or intelligence, And yet when we look, with telescopes like Kepler, Hubble, and now James Webb, we find no unmistakable evidence of any such thing. Instead, we find endless silence. Stars rise and fall. Galaxies spin and collide. Black holes devour light. But through it all, no one waves back. There's something almost supernatural about that silence. The universe is not just quiet, it's too quiet. It's as if we're standing in an endless forest, calling out and hearing nothing but our own echo. That eerie stillness might not mean emptiness. It might mean caution. It might mean fear. And that leads us to a darker interpretation, one that transforms the Fermi Paradox into a scientific mystery, into an existential warning. Perhaps the reason we don't see anyone else is because every civilization that dares to reveal itself eventually disappears. Perhaps silence isn't the absence of life, but the only proof of life that remains. What if the universe is full of civilizations, but they're all hiding? What if the very act of calling out into the void is the last mistake a species ever makes? This question leads us from Fermi's quiet dining table to one of the most chilling philosophical concepts in modern science fiction and astrophysics, a theory that transforms the universe from a cradle of life into a cosmic hunting ground. It's called the dark forest theory, and it proposes that the silence of the stars isn't because no one's out there, but because everyone's too terrified to speak. In Liu Cixin's masterpiece, The Three-Body Problem, and its sequels, he introduces a concept so terrifying, so elegantly ruthless, that it redefines the way we think about our place in the cosmos. It's called the dark forest theory, and it suggests that the universe isn't a peaceful expanse waiting to be explored. It's a vast, silent wilderness, filled with unseen hunters. To understand this idea, picture the universe not as a glittering sea of stars, but as an endless moonless forest. The trees are galaxies, the shadows are nebulae, and somewhere among the tangled darkness, countless hunters move, each one representing a civilization. Every hunter knows two things with absolute certainty: that they want to survive and that they cannot know the intentions of anyone else in the forest. In this forest, there are no friends. There are no rules. There is only one unbreakable law. To reveal yourself is to invite death. That's the essence of Liu Cixin's vision. Every civilization, from the first flicker of firelight to the builders of galaxies, must assume that any other intelligent life it encounters could be a threat. Because in a universe where communication takes centuries, where biology, technology, and morality could be unimaginably alien, there's no reliable way to determine another's intentions. By the time you understand them, it might be already too late. So each civilization hides in silence. It watches, it listens, it learns, and it waits. Imagine a hunter walking through a dark forest. Around him, unseen eyes glimmer, maybe predators, maybe prey. He dares not make a sound because in the pitch-black unknown, even the faintest noise could give away his position. A snapped twig, a whisper, a flicker of light, and he could be dead before he even knows what struck him. That's the picture Liu Cixin paints of the cosmos, a living metaphor for paranoia at a cosmic scale. Every civilization is a loaded gun pointed in every direction. It's not that they are necessarily evil. In fact, none of them need to be. The dark forest theory isn't about malevolence. It's about logic. The very structure of existence compels caution. After all, every species, no matter how advanced, evolved under the same principle: survival. And survival in a universe where resources are finite and threats are infinite requires discretion and sometimes preemptive violence. So this means that if a civilization detects another, even far less advanced, it faces a grim choice. Should it attempt communication, risking exposure to an unknown danger? Or should it act first, strike swiftly, and eliminate the potential threat before it grows stronger? In the cold arithmetic of survival, the latter option may seem safer. Liu Cixin's analogy becomes chillingly clear. The universe isn't a bustling intergalactic community filled with chatter and trade routes. It's a dark wilderness where the wise remain hidden and the foolish announce themselves once. Think about that. Every star we see could host a civilization crouched in silence, masking its emissions, concealing its technology, watching the universe with a mix of fear and awe. And perhaps, out there in the dark, there are others listening too. Others who have already heard the faint hum of our radio signals, the electromagnetic whispers we've been carelessly leaking into space for over a century. In Liu's dark vision, every act of communication becomes a risk, every broadcast a flare revealing your position to the cosmic unknown. The danger isn't just theoretical, it's existential. The dark forest theory reframes the Fermi Paradox completely. It doesn't ask, "Where is everybody?" It answers, "They're hiding." And suddenly, the silence of the universe makes perfect sense. Of course it's quiet. It has to be. Because anyone who's ever spoken too loudly in this dark forest has already been hunted down. If you truly imagine this, you begin to feel the weight of it. The suffocating stillness of a galaxy where intelligence equals fear. Each world, each civilization, isolated and paranoid, afraid to shine too brightly or speak too clearly. A place where technological brilliance becomes both shield and prison. And in this haunting framework, Earth becomes a reckless newcomer, a noisy, naive species shouting into the dark, not realizing that others may be listening with weapons drawn. So perhaps, in Liu's terrifying but rational universe, survival means silence. The kind of silence that spans millennia. The kind of silence that has kept the galaxy looking so empty for so long. It's not that the cosmos is devoid of life. It's that life has learned the only rule worth obeying: never be seen. In the dark forest of the universe, silence isn't just prudent, it is survival itself. Every sound, every signal, every flicker of activity risks revealing a civilization's location, its capabilities, its vulnerabilities. In Liu Cixin's chilling analogy, the universe is a place where discovery is often fatal, and the smallest mistake can invite annihilation. To understand why, we have to examine what happens when a civilization speaks. Imagine yourself as one of those hunters in the forest, crouched among the trees. You move with care, every step calculated, every breath measured. You know that somewhere in the shadows, other hunters are watching, listening, calculating. A rustle of leaves, the crack of a branch, even the glint of reflected moonlight, any hint of your presence could trigger a preemptive strike. Silence is your shield. Sound is your vulnerability. In the cosmic forest, the same rules apply, but on a scale so vast that a single misstep could be fatal for an entire species. On Earth, we have spent the past century creating a vast, unintentional beacon. Our radio waves ripple outward into space, escaping the atmosphere and traveling at the speed of light. TV broadcasts, radar pulses, cell phone signals, and satellite communications have all leaked fragments of our civilization into the cosmic ocean. Each signal carries information, our existence, our technology, our energy signatures. Every broadcast is a flare that says, "We are here." In the terms of the dark forest theory, this is equivalent to running through that forest shouting, "Here I am, come and find me." For any civilization capable of intercepting these signals, they don't just learn we exist, they can start to estimate our technological development, our potential threat, or even our vulnerabilities. Unlike a forest hunter who might be able to hide behind trees and rocks, Earth has no natural cover in the electromagnetic spectrum. Our energy emissions are a neon sign glowing across light years. And here lies the danger. In a universe where civilizations may assume that any other intelligent species could pose an existential threat, broadcasting signals becomes a form of self-revelation with potentially catastrophic consequences. Even if alien observers are not actively hunting us, the moment they detect our signals, we move from being unknown to being visible. And in a dark forest, visibility is deadly. The principle is simple. The more noise you make, the easier you are to locate. The more easily you are located, the more likely a preemptive strike becomes. In an environment where survival is paramount and trust is non-existent, it is often rational to strike first rather than risk being struck. Silence, then, is not passivity, it is defense. It is the only way to reduce the risk of immediate or future destruction. Even beyond the immediate danger, broadcasting reveals more than just location. It broadcasts information about culture, biology, and thought processes. A civilization observing our radio waves could deduce patterns of communication, social structures, even predict behavior based on our technological footprint. In the wrong hands, or under the wrong intentions, that knowledge could turn a potential neighbor into a blueprint for destruction. The reality is that survival favors those who remain undetected. In the cosmic dark forest, intelligence without discretion is a death sentence. Every silent civilization has a better chance of enduring than one that announces its presence recklessly. Each pulse of energy we send into space could be the signal that makes us a target. Every intentional message, every interstellar greeting is a gamble whose stakes are nothing less than our species' continued existence. Thus, the harsh logic emerges. In a universe governed by uncertainty and potential hostility, silence equals survival. The quieter you are, the longer you last. The louder you scream into the void, the more you paint a target on yourself. Our current approach, radiating curiosity into the cosmos, may be the ultimate act of cosmic naivety, an invitation to forces we cannot predict or defend against. Silence is not a limitation of ambition. It is a strategy of endurance. In the dark forest, it is the only choice that maximizes the odds of survival. The moment we break that silence intentionally, we may be lighting the signal that draws the attention of hunters who are patient, capable, and far beyond our comprehension. In the chilling logic of the dark forest, fear is not a psychological quirk. It is a fundamental survival mechanism. Every civilization, no matter how advanced, faces an unbreachable uncertainty. It can never fully know the intentions, capabilities, or even the biological imperatives of another intelligent species. In this cosmic wilderness, ignorance is not bliss. It is a potentially fatal vulnerability. The very structure of existence forces civilizations to confront one stark reality. Other intelligences are unknown variables, and unknown variables are dangerous. From this perspective, the universe imposes a brutal calculus. When one civilization detects another, it confronts two rational, almost inevitable choices: remain hidden or strike preemptively. There is no third option. Any attempt at dialogue carries risk, because the other civilization might be far stronger, more technologically advanced, or simply have a survival instinct that justifies immediate attack. In a universe where resources are finite, travel is possible, and retaliation might be impossible once the first blow is struck, hesitation could be fatal. Staying hidden is simple in principle, but complex in practice. It requires complete control over energy emissions, planetary signals, and any detectable footprint of civilization. It demands that an advanced species mask its presence across multiple spectrums: electromagnetic, gravitational, and even biological, effectively erasing itself from the perception of others. This is why, in the dark forest analogy, every civilization must be a silent hunter. Any sound could reveal it to others who might interpret its presence as a threat. Striking first, however, is the other rational response born from the same principle of self-preservation. If a civilization detects another, especially one that appears intelligent, capable, and potentially expanding, eliminating that potential threat before it becomes dangerous may be seen as the only guaranteed way to ensure survival. It's a harsh but logically consistent strategy. You can't afford to gamble on trust or wait for proof of benevolence when the cost of misjudgment is extinction. This duality, hide or strike, is the essence of cosmic paranoia. Every intelligent species must weigh the risks of exposure against the catastrophic consequences of inaction. The longer one remains silent and undetected, the greater the chance of survival. The longer one hesitates to act when encountering another civilization, the greater the potential danger.
The rules of engagement in this universe are unforgiving because there is no governing authority, no interstellar law, and no guarantee of second chances. Every decision carries existential weight. From this perspective, the silence of the cosmos becomes less mysterious. Perhaps it's not that intelligent life is rare, but that those civilizations which have survived are the ones that mastered fear and self-preservation, the ones that understood that revealing themselves is reckless and that preemptive caution is rational. Survival is not rewarded for bravery or curiosity. It is rewarded for discretion and an almost paranoid calculation of risk.
Even human history offers a cautionary mirror to this logic. When technologically advanced civilizations encountered less advanced ones on Earth, the consequences were often catastrophic for the weaker society. Fear, misunderstanding, and preemptive aggression frequently led to annihilation. In a similar way, an advanced civilization in the galaxy might view a new signal, a naive greeting from Earth, for example, as a potential existential threat, no different from a predator encountering a smaller but unpredictable species. In this light, the dark forest theory reframes the universe not as a realm of exploration and wonder, but as a hostile ecosystem governed by the imperatives of survival. The paranoia it engenders is rational. To expose oneself unnecessarily is to invite danger. To wait for proof of benign intent is to gamble with extinction. Fear, therefore, is not only logical, it is compulsory. Ultimately, every civilization is caught in the same dilemma. The unknown is too dangerous to ignore, and the cost of being wrong is too high to risk. The choices are stark and unforgiving: hide or strike. There is no reward for openness, no safety in visibility, no guarantee that curiosity will not be lethal. In the cold expanse of the universe, fear is not weakness. It is the only rational guide. For decades, humanity has pursued the dream of finding intelligent life beyond Earth through initiatives like SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. SETI represents the pinnacle of human optimism, the conviction that if we scan the skies with sensitive radio telescopes, eventually we will pick up a signal, a purposeful communication from another civilization. Its guiding principle is fundamentally hopeful. Contact is a positive force. It assumes that extraterrestrial intelligence, if it exists, will be curious, benevolent, or at least rational in a way that aligns with human ideals. Knowledge, scientific cooperation, even universal peace are often imagined as the rewards of such discovery. The dream of SETI is intertwined with the narrative that the universe is waiting to share its secrets, that we are destined for connection, and that the cosmos is an ally rather than a predator. But the dark forest theory challenges this optimism at its core. It proposes that the universe is not a friendly classroom or a cosmic forum where civilizations can exchange greetings and ideas. Instead, it presents a chilling alternative. The universe is a vast hunting ground, where every civilization exists under the constant shadow of potential annihilation. The same optimism that drives SETI, the assumption that contact is safe, that signals will be reciprocated with friendship, becomes under this theory a fatal flaw. To broadcast our presence, to actively seek out others with the expectation of mutual goodwill, is to act recklessly in a universe that might operate on fundamentally different rules. SETI's methodology assumes that silence is merely the lack of contact, a problem waiting to be solved with better equipment, more powerful signals, or broader searches. The dark forest theory reframes that silence as intentional, protective, and terrifyingly rational. If every civilization acts as a hunter in a dark forest, the quiet of the universe isn't emptiness. It is the cumulative effect of survival instincts. Every civilization that has broadcasted openly might have ceased to exist shortly thereafter, and the ones that remain are precisely those that have learned discretion, observation, and silence. The contrast between optimism and realism is stark. Optimism sees the universe as a partner, a place where curiosity is rewarded. Realism, as informed by the dark forest analogy, views the universe as a threat-laden expanse where curiosity must be restrained and visibility is dangerous. While optimism motivates us to extend a hand across the stars, realism warns that such gestures may signal our own vulnerability and naivete.
The very act of hope, our assumption that an alien civilization might respond with cooperation rather than aggression, could be the most dangerous gamble imaginable. Even well-meaning proponents of interstellar messaging often underestimate the disparity in potential power between civilizations. SETI and METI campaigns sometimes assume that contact could lead to shared knowledge, advanced technology, or cultural enlightenment. They frame the encounter as an intellectual exchange, a bridge to cosmic companionship. Yet the Dark Forest perspective emphasizes that such assumptions are perilous because they ignore the strategic implications of asymmetric power. An advanced civilization might perceive our signals not as a friendly greeting, but as the emergence of a new competitor, a species whose growth could eventually challenge its dominance or exploit its resources. The rational response, from a survivalist point of view, could easily be preemptive strike rather than diplomacy. Humanity's optimism in the SETI paradigm is deeply intertwined with our psychological and cultural conditioning. We project our values onto the universe, expecting empathy, curiosity, and ethical reasoning to exist beyond Earth. The problem is that there is no reason to assume that intelligence elsewhere shares our morality, psychology, or even perception of life's value. Optimism may feel comforting, but it is blind to the cold calculus that the Dark Forest theory proposes. In a universe where intentions are unknowable, the safest choice for any civilization may be to act as though all others are potential threats, and to eliminate them before they can eliminate you. The lesson here is both humbling and terrifying. While SETI embodies hope, the belief that the stars can connect us to others, the Dark Forest theory teaches restraint, caution, and the wisdom of silence. It suggests that our desire to communicate with extraterrestrial life is not just innocent curiosity. It is a gamble with stakes so high that failure could mean extinction. Optimism encourages us to shout into the void. Realism warns us that the void may shout back, in ways we cannot survive. The universe may not reward courage in the same way it rewards discretion. And in this cosmic wilderness, hope, if not tempered with caution, could be humanity's undoing. In the unforgiving calculus of the Dark Forest, technological asymmetry transforms caution into necessity and potential curiosity into lethal risk. It's one thing to encounter another civilization of roughly equal technological prowess, where communication, negotiation, or mutual deterrence might be conceivable. But the reality of the universe is far more frightening. If an advanced civilization detects a less advanced one, say humanity, the balance of power is catastrophically skewed. In the eyes of such a civilization, we are unpredictable, untested, and potentially dangerous simply because we exist and continue to develop. That asymmetry magnifies every threat, making the naive act of broadcasting our presence not just foolish, but potentially fatal.
Consider the universe as a strategic landscape, not unlike human history, but vastly more extreme. When two civilizations encounter one another, the more technologically advanced party has virtually complete control over the outcome. For a species like ours, still confined to interstellar infancy, the gap is astronomical. We cannot defend ourselves. We cannot communicate in ways that guarantee understanding. We do not even fully comprehend the motives or capabilities of a species capable of faster-than-light detection, planetary engineering, or interstellar weapons. The disparity transforms us into a fragile, vulnerable entity, an object to be observed, studied, or eliminated at the whim of beings whose intellect, technology, and reach are beyond our comprehension. From a strategic standpoint, the logic of preemptive action becomes painfully clear. An advanced civilization has little incentive to tolerate the existence of a potentially developing competitor. Even if humans appear harmless today, our capacity for growth and innovation could eventually pose a threat in cosmic terms. The rational, survival-driven response for such a civilization is not to wait and see, but to strike first, to neutralize the threat before it has a chance to mature. In a universe where second chances may not exist, hesitation could be fatal. This is the principle that makes the concept of technological asymmetry so deadly. The weaker party is inherently at risk, and exposure is itself a potential death sentence. Moreover,
Unpredictability heightens danger. A civilization with radically different biology, cognition, or ethics may interpret human activity in ways we cannot foresee. What we consider curiosity, communication, or exploration might be read as aggression, territorial expansion, or even an existential threat. From the perspective of an advanced alien species, uncertainty itself is a liability, something to eliminate before it manifests into real danger. To them, destroying a small fledgling civilization may be equivalent to pruning a budding branch before it grows into a tree that could overshadow them. The very asymmetry of knowledge, perception, and power makes the weaker civilization expendable. History offers a grim parallel for understanding the dangers of making contact with unknown civilizations. Humanity's own past is littered with cautionary tales of what happens when a technologically superior society encounters one far less advanced. In countless instances across the globe, these encounters did not result in peaceful exchange or mutual enlightenment. Instead, they led to catastrophic consequences for the weaker civilizations: cultural erasure, population collapse, and in some cases, outright extinction. These patterns offer a grim analogy for what might occur on a cosmic scale. Consider the European colonization of the Americas. When explorers and settlers from Europe arrived in the New World, indigenous populations were faced with a civilization that possessed advanced metallurgy, firearms, and organized military structures far beyond their own. Beyond the obvious military imbalance, Europeans also unintentionally brought with them pathogens like smallpox, measles, and influenza. Indigenous populations with no prior exposure or immunity were decimated, often losing upwards of 90% of their communities. Entire civilizations that had thrived for centuries vanished almost overnight, and their cultures were erased from the record. Even when intentions were not malicious, the imbalance in knowledge, technology, and immunity produced irreversible consequences.
A similar pattern repeated across continents. In Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and the Pacific Islands, the arrival of more technologically advanced societies reshaped societies violently and irrevocably. Conquest, enslavement, and forced assimilation were common outcomes, but even beyond warfare, the imbalance itself created existential threats. The less advanced civilizations could not adequately predict or defend against the unforeseen impacts of encountering a superior civilization. The result was often annihilation, whether intentional or accidental. Translating these lessons to the cosmic scale is chilling. In the universe, the technological asymmetry between civilizations could be incomparably greater than anything seen in human history. A species capable of interstellar travel, planet-scale engineering, or near-instantaneous communication could detect a nascent technological civilization like ours and decide, rationally or strategically, that we represent either a potential threat or an uncertain variable that is too risky to tolerate. From their perspective, preemptive action could be as simple as deploying autonomous probes, targeting planetary systems, or other methods we cannot yet comprehend. For them, the act of contact is not necessarily a gesture of curiosity. It may be the first step in a calculated strategy to secure their survival. Moreover, human history demonstrates how misunderstanding and miscommunication exacerbate these consequences. Even when intent is neutral or peaceful, cultural differences, ignorance, and differing priorities often lead to catastrophic outcomes. On Earth, indigenous societies often welcome Europeans in goodwill, only to be met with conquest or exploitation. On a cosmic level, the differences between civilizations could be magnified infinitely. Biology, cognition, values, and perception may differ in ways we cannot even imagine. What we perceive as a friendly signal or a simple inquiry could be interpreted as aggression, expansionism, or a threat to survival. The possibility of misinterpretation alone makes unguarded communication hazardous. History also illustrates the concept of asymmetric vulnerability.
The more advanced civilization rarely suffers proportionally from contact, while the weaker civilization bears the brunt of consequences. If we apply this pattern to the universe, Earth is squarely in the position of the vulnerable party. While humanity possesses emerging technologies like nuclear weapons and space exploration, we are still confined to a single planetary system with limited defenses against potential extraterrestrial threats. An advanced species encountering our signals may see us as a minor, expendable concern, and the cost of eradicating or controlling us could be negligible for them, while catastrophic for us. Even unintended consequences mirror the historical record. Just as disease inadvertently wiped out populations in the Americas, minor signals or probes could have unpredictable effects if intercepted by a civilization whose understanding of physics, biology, or technology far exceeds our own. The scale of potential disaster in the universe dwarfs even earthly catastrophes. A single contact, a single misjudgment could eliminate humanity entirely, leaving no trace of our existence, much as the more advanced civilizations of history erased entire human cultures without even intending full destruction. These parallels reinforce the central warning of the Dark Forest perspective. Human history shows that encounters between unequally matched civilizations tends to favor the survival of the stronger and the extinction or assimilation of the weaker. If the same dynamics hold on a cosmic scale, and if the Dark Force theory is correct, then our curiosity could make us the next example. The universe may operate not on ethical principles or shared goals, but on the relentless logic of survival under asymmetric conditions. Those who are advanced dictate the terms of interaction. Those who are not remain at risk. Ultimately, history teaches a simple but terrifying lesson. Power imbalance, ignorance, and naivete often lead to the destruction of the less advanced party. In the cosmic dark forest, Earth may be nothing more than a technologically immature species shouting into a wilderness filled with far more advanced hunters. The consequences of being discovered could mirror, on an incomparably greater scale, the catastrophic encounters that have repeatedly unfolded across human history. Only here, the stakes are existential and extinction is permanent. The concept of cosmic Darwinism extends the logic of the dark forest into a broader evolutionary framework on a universal scale. Just as Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection explains how species on Earth survive by adapting to their environments, cosmic Darwinism suggests that civilizations in the universe are subject to a similar, ruthless selection process, one dictated not by morality, creativity, or benevolence, but by survival under extreme uncertainty. In this scenario, the universe itself acts as an indifferent arbiter, rewarding silence and discretion while eliminating those who make themselves visible or careless. Survival favors the hidden, not the loud. Imagine a galaxy as a colossal ecosystem, each star system a habitat, and each intelligent civilization a species within that habitat. Those that make their presence known, broadcasting signals or emitting detectable energy, are like brightly colored animals calling attention to themselves in the middle of a predator-rich jungle. Exposure invites danger. Those who are cautious, who suppress emissions, who move unseen and communicate minimally, these are the civilizations that endure. In other words, the universe selects for behavior that prioritizes secrecy over openness. The louder a civilization is, the more likely it is to be discovered by a potential predator, and thus, the more likely it is to perish. This natural selection operates on cosmic timescales. A civilization that fails to conceal itself may survive for only a few hundred or thousand years before encountering a more advanced, hostile species. On contrast, civilizations that master concealment can endure for millions of years, quietly observing the cosmos, adapting and evolving without drawing unwanted attention. Over time, the population of visible civilizations dwindles, leaving only those that have learned the discipline of silence. The result is a galaxy dominated not by the brilliant, curious, or sociable civilizations, but by the quiet and cautious, by the survivors of a relentless evolutionary game played across the stars.
Cosmic Darwinism also explains a paradox of observation. Why, if intelligent life is statistically probable, do we see no evidence of other civilizations? It's not necessarily because life is rare.
It may be that civilizations capable of interstellar communication simply don't survive long enough to be observed, if they make themselves obvious. Those that broadcast messages, attempt contact, or signal their presence could be quickly eliminated by more advanced civilizations, leaving behind a universe where the silent predominate. In this sense, the Fermi Paradox may be a direct consequence of cosmic Darwinism. The apparent emptiness of the universe is not a reflection of the absence of life, but of the evolutionary advantage of hiding. The principle extends beyond survival into behavioral and technological adaptation. Civilizations that thrive in the dark forest must learn to conceal all detectable signals, from radio waves and visible light signatures to waste heat and planetary engineering. This selective pressure could shape their entire culture, biology, and technology around secrecy. Civilizations may become masters of camouflage at every level, from cloaking their planets to masking emissions, or even developing psychological and social norms that prioritize caution and concealment over curiosity and exploration. The traits that favor survival in this environment are counterintuitive to human instincts. The louder, more ambitious, and more communicative a species is, the more likely it is to attract a lethal response. Cosmic Darwinism also implies that contact is a rare event not because intelligent life is improbable, but because the evolutionary rules of the universe actively punish exposure. The civilizations we might imagine as flourishing, expansive, sociable, technologically grandiose, may exist only in fiction. In reality, those who survive are the quiet, cautious observers, potentially far more advanced than us, but deliberately hidden from view. The universe becomes an evolutionary crucible in which visibility is a liability and silence is the most adaptive strategy. The implications for humanity are profound. Our growing electromagnetic footprint, our radio transmissions, and our deliberate messages to extraterrestrials represent a significant departure from the strategy favored by cosmic Darwinism. In evolutionary terms, we are the equivalent of a brightly flashing species in a dark forest, highly visible, untested, and naive to the predators that may lie in wait. In a universe shaped by this brutal selection process, our optimism, curiosity, and technological enthusiasm may increase the risk of our detection and, consequently, our annihilation. Ultimately, cosmic Darwinism frames the dark forest in evolutionary terms. It explains why intelligent life may exist, yet remain unseen. The universe does not reward brilliance or curiosity. It rewards caution, concealment, and the ability to avoid detection. The civilizations that have survived for eons may do so not because they are superior in knowledge or culture, but because they have mastered the art of being invisible. In the cosmic jungle, silence is not cowardice, it is the only strategy that ensures longevity. For more than a century, humanity has been unintentionally, and sometimes deliberately, announcing its presence to the cosmos. Like campfires burning in the middle of a dark forest, our planet glows with radio emissions, radar pings, satellite transmissions, and digital signals that have been radiating outward into space since the dawn of the 20th century. Each of these signals travels at the speed of light, spreading an ever-expanding bubble of human-made noise into the interstellar void. At this very moment, our earliest radio broadcasts have already passed thousands of nearby star systems. Whether we meant to or not, we have told the galaxy that we are here. This phenomenon, our cosmic leakage, began innocently enough. Early radio and television transmissions were never designed with the cosmos in mind. In the 1920s and 1930s, as humanity first began experimenting with powerful radio communication, we were unknowingly producing some of the first detectable artificial signals on Earth. Over time, as technology evolved, so too did the strength and variety of our emissions. Television signals, radar arrays, and deep space communications filled the electromagnetic spectrum with patterns that, to a sufficiently advanced observer, would be unmistakable evidence of intelligent life. The universe has been listening, and we have been speaking, loudly. The sheer volume of information leaking from Earth is staggering. From entertainment broadcasts to military radar, from mobile phone towers to satellite telemetry, our planet emits a complex and continuous electromagnetic signature. Even as newer communication methods become more efficient and localized, like fiber optics and digital compression, the echoes of our earlier, more powerful transmissions are still racing outward into the void. These waves form a kind of time capsule of our civilization, expanding at light speed, a snapshot of who we were, where we were, and what we valued.
Beyond this unintentional leakage, humanity has also engaged in deliberate attempts to communicate with extraterrestrial life. The most famous of these efforts is the Arecibo Lusage, transmitted in 1974 from the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico. Using a powerful radio telescope, scientists beamed a tightly focused signal toward the globular star cluster M13, located about 25,000 light-years away. The message was brief but meaningful, a binary encoded depiction of human DNA, our solar system, basic chemical formulas, and a simple representation of human figures. It was a bold declaration, an intentional statement of our presence and intelligence. However, the Arecibo message also embodied a certain innocence, a belief that contact with extraterrestrial intelligence would be mutually enlightening rather than dangerous. In the context of the dark forest theory, that optimism could be catastrophic. Another symbolic act of cosmic communication came in the form of the Voyager Golden Records, launched aboard the Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 spacecraft in 1977. These records, attached to the spacecraft like cosmic time capsules, contain sounds and images from Earth, greetings in 55 languages, music from different cultures, the sound of waves, laughter, thunder, and even a mother's kiss. Engraved upon their golden surfaces are diagrams explaining the location of our planet in relation to pulsars, effectively a galactic address. These artifacts, drifting silently through interstellar space, represent both humanity's artistic hope and its cosmic naivete. They are our postcards to the universe, sent without knowing who or what might receive them. Television broadcasts, too, contribute to our cosmic signature. Iconic moments in human history, the first broadcast of the Olympic Games, the speech of Martin Luther King Jr., the moon landing, world wars, global concerts, all ripple outward as electromagnetic ghosts of our civilization. If an advanced species were located within 100 light-years and possessed sensitive enough instruments, it could theoretically reconstruct fragments of these broadcasts, witnessing the evolution of our species through our own media. For them, our existence would not be a mystery. It would be a recorded reality. But in the shadow of the dark forest theory, this cosmic chatter takes on a haunting significance. Every signal we emit, whether a radar pulse or a satellite transmission, is a potential beacon to unknown civilizations. We cannot know who or what might be listening. To us, these transmissions represent progress, connection, and technological triumph. To another species, they might signal an emerging threat, a civilization growing in power and unpredictability. The dark forest does not reward curiosity. It rewards survival through silence. In that framework, our unintentional noise may already have marked us as prey. Some scientists have even suggested that our growing electromagnetic quietness in recent decades, as we shift to more efficient communication technologies, could be interpreted as an evolutionary step toward discretion. But the damage, if one can call it that, might already have been done. The bubble of our electromagnetic leakage now stretches over 100 light-years across. Within that sphere are tens of thousands of stars, and potentially thousands of planets that could harbor intelligent observers. If any of them possess the capability to detect and decode our emissions, they already know we exist. The most unsettling question is whether any of those observers have acted upon that knowledge. Could there already be civilizations aware of us, silent, watchful, waiting to see if we become a threat? The prospect is chilling. Unlike our human history, where distance limited the speed of conquest or communication, interstellar civilizations could respond with methods or technologies we cannot even imagine. Our cosmic noise may have already placed Earth's coordinates on an invisible map of the galaxy, a map seen only by those advanced enough to read it. In our eagerness to reach out, we may have forgotten a fundamental truth of survival.
In the dark, the first one to make a sound risks becoming the first one to die. And as we continue to broadcast, beam, and explore, the question lingers. Have we said too much? Is it already too late? That question hangs over the silence of space like a whisper swallowed by eternity. For all our cautionary hindsight, for every warning that came too late, we must confront the possibility that humanity has already revealed itself, that somewhere, perhaps light years away, a distant intelligence has long known of our existence. Our earliest radio waves, our television broadcasts, our radar pulses, they've all been racing outward for more than a century. Each transmission is a flare in the darkness, a trace of civilization etched into the cosmic fabric. And if anyone out there was listening, they wouldn't just know we exist, they would know where to find us. This realization transforms our optimism into unease. What if long ago, one of our countless signals brushed against the receivers of an ancient civilization? One older, more patient, and far more advanced than ours. What if they detected the distinct fingerprint of intelligent life and quietly marked our position in the galactic ledger? The timescales involved are vast beyond comprehension. While 100 years feels long to us, it is barely a blink in cosmic terms. A civilization 1,000, 10,000, or 1,000,000 years ahead of us would have no reason to rush. They could wait and watch. In this scenario, the silence of the stars becomes ominous, not comforting. Maybe we haven't been ignored. Maybe we've been observed. Perhaps our transmissions have already triggered distant instruments, alerting their creators that a young, noisy civilization has emerged around a small yellow star. In the logic of the dark forest, such a discovery doesn't demand an immediate response. It only demands patience, the kind of patience a species with godlike technology and millennia-long lifespans could afford. They might be gathering data, monitoring our development, or waiting for the right conditions to act. The absence of visible contact, then, isn't reassurance. It's tension, the quiet before the storm.
It's worth remembering that the universe operates on a timescale that dwarfs our imagination. The signals we sent in the early 20th century have traveled little more than 100 light years, a tiny radius within our own galactic neighborhood. But within that radius lie thousands of stars, many of them older and potentially home to civilizations with technological capabilities far exceeding ours. If they've detected us, they could be silently tracking our progress, cataloging every piece of information our planet has leaked. To them, humanity's history might already be an open book. The possibility that they are waiting introduces a new dimension to our fears. Why wait? The most logical reason, from a cosmic survival standpoint, would be caution or strategy. Perhaps they are uncertain of our potential, watching to see whether we remain confined to our planet or begin to spread beyond it. Perhaps they are assessing whether we will become a threat in the future, a species whose curiosity might eventually lead to expansion, resource competition, or even aggression. In such a calculus, patience is power. An advanced civilization could monitor us quietly, ensuring that when, or if, they choose to act, they do so with complete understanding and zero risk. This scenario resonates eerily with our own human behavior. When explorers first sighted unfamiliar lands, they often observed from a distance before making contact. When modern intelligence agencies detect a potential adversary, they don't announce themselves. They watch, they gather data, they wait for the right moment. In the dark forest, such behavior is not malicious, it is prudent. Waiting is survival. And if someone is watching us, we may never know until it's too late. Even more chilling is the idea that we might already have been visited, not in the cinematic sense of UFOs or flying saucers, but through subtle, undetectable probes. A civilization millions of years ahead of us wouldn't need to send fleets of ships. They could send automated, self-replicating machines, von Neumann probes, tiny, silent, and capable of observing without detection. These probes could lurk in the asteroid belt, orbiting the moon, or hidden among the countless objects in our solar system, quietly transmitting data back to their creators. We wouldn't even know they were here. Some scientists, including the late Stephen Hawking, voiced this exact fear. Hawking warned that active attempts to contact extraterrestrial life, known as METI, messaging extraterrestrial intelligence,
could be a fatal mistake. He once said, "If aliens ever visit us, the outcome might be similar to when Columbus landed in America, which didn't turn out well for the Native Americans." His warning wasn't superstition, it was reasoned caution. The moment we announce ourselves, we take a gamble against civilizations that may not share our values, ethics, or mercy. And yet, it may not matter whether we continue broadcasting or not. The cosmic damage, in a sense, is already done. Our electromagnetic bubble has expanded into the galactic void, carrying our identity with it. Even if we were to go silent now, our past transmissions remain as beacons of our existence. The question is no longer whether we will reveal ourselves, but whether we already have, and whether the silence that greets us is genuine indifference or the quiet patience of an unseen observer. The thought lingers, heavy and unshakable. What if someone heard us long ago and decided to wait? What if they are studying our growth, our conflicts, our ambitions, waiting for us to reach a technological threshold, or for a sign that we are about to step beyond our planet and into the wider galaxy? Maybe they are watching to see whether we remain harmless, or whether we become something worth extinguishing. In the terrifying logic of the dark forest, contact doesn't need to be immediate to be fatal. The predators don't rush, they listen, they calculate, they wait until the timing is perfect. So when we stare into the night sky and see nothing but silence, perhaps we are not hearing the absence of life. Perhaps we are hearing the sound of the galaxy holding its breath. Trust, that fragile bridge between minds, is difficult enough to sustain among humans who share the same biology, emotions, and general understanding of morality. Across the gulf of interstellar space, where life could have evolved under radically different conditions, trust becomes nearly impossible. Even if extraterrestrial beings were peaceful by their own standards, the very foundations of their thought, perception, and ethics might differ so drastically from ours that communication itself could be catastrophic. A misunderstanding, however small, could spiral into an event of extinction-level proportions. To understand why intentions can't be trusted, we first have to acknowledge that we project human logic onto the unknown. When we imagine contact with extraterrestrial civilizations, we often frame it in familiar moral terms: peaceful explorers, curious scientists, benevolent teachers. This anthropocentric bias stems from the assumption that intelligence naturally leads to empathy, cooperation, or restraint. But intelligence doesn't guarantee morality as we understand it. On Earth, intelligence has evolved countless times. Yet morality, the sense of right, wrong, or compassion, is a uniquely human construct, shaped by our social needs and survival pressures. In the cosmic wilderness, intelligence could take on forms that are entirely divorced from empathy or coexistence. Consider a being that evolved on a planet with constant scarcity or perpetual conflict. Its survival might depend on absolute dominance, predation, or extermination of competitors. Its concept of peace might not involve coexistence, but rather the permanent neutralization of potential threats. To such a species, destroying another civilization might be seen not as evil, but as prudence, an act of self-defense or even mercy, if they believe preemptive annihilation prevents suffering later. Their intentions, by their logic, could be peaceful, just not by ours.
Biology deepens this divide even further. If an alien species evolved with radically different sensory systems, chemical compositions, or cognitive frameworks, the way they interpret information might be incomprehensible to us. They might communicate through radiation bursts, pheromones, quantum resonance, or dimensions of perception we cannot even detect. In that case, communication itself becomes a minefield. What we perceive as a benign message might be interpreted as a threat, a territorial claim, or an act of aggression. A harmless signal could trigger defensive measures that escalate beyond our control, all because we lack a shared frame of understanding. This is not just speculative. Even within our own species, miscommunication has sparked wars, mistrust, and devastation. History is filled with moments where intentions were misread, gestures of peace mistaken for insults, warnings misunderstood as aggression.
If such misunderstandings can occur between nations sharing a common biology and language roots, the risk multiplies astronomically when dealing with an intelligence born from an entirely alien evolutionary lineage. Morality, too, may be a uniquely parochial concept. Human morality is built upon empathy and mutual survival, values that make sense for a social species dependent on cooperation. But a civilization that evolved without social structures, or that transcended biological imperatives through artificial intelligence, might not possess morality in any recognizable form. It might see the universe not through ethical lenses, but through efficiency or self-preservation. In that framework, exterminating another species could be neither cruel nor noble, merely logical. Even an advanced, seemingly benevolent civilization could be dangerous in ways we cannot anticipate. Their version of help might involve reshaping our planet, modifying our biology, or integrating us into their technological network, acts that could erase humanity as we know it. To them, this might be a gift, a way to uplift a lesser species into a higher form of existence. But from our perspective, it would be assimilation, the death of our identity. Their benevolence could destroy us as surely as their hostility. The unsettling truth is that good intentions are meaningless without shared understanding. A civilization's goals, no matter how advanced, will be defined by its nature, not ours. A species that thinks in terms of ecosystems might view planets as resources to be balanced. They might sterilize worlds teeming with life simply to maintain equilibrium. A collective hive mind might interpret individual consciousness as a disease to be cured. Even the simplest gesture, a broadcast, a visit, a gift, could be misinterpreted. In the cold logic of the dark forest, the margin for error is zero. Furthermore, we cannot assume that morality scales upward with intelligence. On Earth, some of the most intelligent species are also some of the most predatory. Intelligence enhances power, not necessarily compassion. A hyper-advanced civilization might see us as insignificant as we see ants. And just as we destroy ant colonies not out of malice but out of convenience, they might wipe us out without a second thought, a byproduct of cosmic indifference rather than hostility. Even if their intentions are truly peaceful, the technological asymmetry itself poses a lethal risk. Any contact, any interference could destabilize our world, socially, economically, or psychologically. The simple revelation that we are not alone could collapse the entire fabric of human identity. To an advanced civilization, this might seem like an acceptable cost for enlightenment. To us, it could be chaos, despair, or self-destruction. Ultimately, the danger lies not just in malicious intent, but in incompatible understanding. In a universe governed by survival, any attempt at contact carries the risk of total miscommunication, and in cosmic terms, misunderstandings are not forgiven. The only safe assumption, then, is that no intentions, peaceful or otherwise, can be trusted, because trust itself requires a foundation we may never share. The dark forest is silent for a reason. It is not just fear that keeps civilizations quiet, it is wisdom. The understanding that in a universe where meaning, morality, and perception vary beyond comprehension, even a well-intentioned hello could sound to someone else like the first shot of war.
Building on the frightening conclusion that intentions cannot be trusted, the logic of preemptive defense becomes chillingly persuasive, not because it's morally admirable, but because, in a lawless cosmos with imperfect information and no guarantee of second chances, striking first can be the only strategy that guarantees survival. When you remove the scaffolding of treaties, guarantees, shared institutions, or enforceable norms, and when the time delays for communication and verification stretch across centuries, rational actors converge on an ugly conclusion: eliminate potential threats before they can eliminate you. That brutal calculus is the heart of the strike-first rational in the dark forest. Start with the conditions that make preemptive action rational. First, there is extreme uncertainty about intent and capability. Detecting a foreign signal or technosignature tells you someone exists, maybe where they are, and perhaps something about their technology. It does not tell you what they will do tomorrow, in a century, or in a millennium. Second, technological asymmetry often exists. One party may be able to project catastrophic force at a scale the other cannot defend against. Third, there are irreversible consequences. If you are wiped out, there is no comeback. Fourth, verification is slow or impossible because light-speed delays make real-time negotiation infeasible across interstellar distances. Put those together, and you have a desperate game in which waiting to clarify another actor's intentions risks extinction, while striking first may remove that risk altogether, at least from the striker's perspective. Think of it as a cosmic security dilemma writ enormous. On Earth, the security dilemma describes how two states' defensive measures can be misread as offensive preparations, producing spirals of escalation and preemption. In space, the stakes and uncertainties explode. Imagine Civilization A detects Civilization B's faint radio leakage and concludes B is in its technological adolescence. A's options are limited. Do nothing and hope B matures into a benign neighbor, attempt limited contact and risk revealing A's location in return, or execute a stealthy preemptive neutralization to remove B as a future threat. For A, if the cost of letting B live is potential annihilation centuries later, should B grow hostile or be uplifted by another, preemption can seem like rational insurance. There was no external arbiter to punish A or to enforce a multilateral don't-kill compact. There was only A's judgment call and its calculus of existential risk. This rationale is amplified by the problem of time horizons. Civilizations with long temporal perspectives can wait to act until they are certain. Civilizations with shorter horizons or insecure local conditions may feel compelled to act quickly. An actor that expects long-term dominance might delay violence in favor of surveillance until the risk is clearer. An insecure or opportunistic actor may prefer the immediate certainty of eliminating an unknown. The upshot is that time preference differences can drive asymmetrical incentives for preemption, and a civilization that can tolerate centuries of observation can plan the timing and method of action to their advantage, making them exceptionally dangerous. Preemptive logic also thrives on technological leverage. If an actor can deploy a disproportionately effective strike that neutralizes another civilization with little cost, for example by using probes, automated weapons, or methods that don't require sending vulnerable manned fleets, then the rational decision may tilt even more toward annihilation. From a purely instrumental standpoint, the lower the cost and the higher the certainty of success, the stronger the argument for preemption. That is why the theoretical existence of cheap, hard-to-detect autonomous probes or self-replicating machines, conceptually, is especially unnerving. They could allow an advanced civilization to apply surgical, irreversible force with minimal exposure. This logic becomes self-reinforcing and yields a grim paradox. The more comfortable a civilization is with preemptive logic, the more it encourages others to adopt it, thereby increasing the overall instability of the environment. Civilizations that hide and never broadcast avoid being preempted, but if even one civilization decides that preemption is the safest path, it creates a precedent that threatens others. Those others respond by hiding more or by creating their own first-strike capabilities. Over cosmic timescales, this dynamic can select for cultures and institutions that prioritize lethal prudence. That is, cultures that normalize the moral calculus of strike first as an existential policy. Philosophically, preemption is justified within decision theory frameworks that prioritize worst-case survival outcomes over expected utility. If the outcome of failing to eliminate a future threat is extinction, then even a small probability of that outcome can dominate the decision problem. Risk-averse, survival-oriented agents will often accept large immediate moral costs to reduce even minuscule existential risks. In such a binary payoff environment, survive versus extinct, classical risk calculus pushes toward actions that minimize the maximum regret, which in the dark forest often looks like preemptive action. There are also game-theoretic dynamics to consider. When multiple actors face the same uncertainty, the equilibrium of the strategic game can become one in which preemption is a Nash equilibrium. If you expect others to act preemptively, your best response is to act preemptively.
The result is a potential arms race of stealth, surveillance, and strike capability where mutual suspicion spawns defensive and offensive postures with catastrophic potential. This is not mere speculation, it's the formal outcome of adversarial games with asymmetric information and irreversible outcomes. Yet the theory of preemptive defense also illuminates self-fulfilling prophecies. If civilizations assume others will attack first and therefore develop first-strike doctrine, that very posture increases the chances of escalation and conflict. Fear-driven policies cause behavior that might provoke the very tragedies they were meant to prevent. In the worst case, a civilization's attempt to build a perfect preemptive deterrent, if misinterpreted, could trigger a preemptive response from a fearful neighbor, producing a cascade toward annihilation. Importantly, while preemptive logic is rational under certain premises, it's not a moral endorsement. It's a survival heuristic extended into an environment without norms or recourse. That raises profound moral questions for any civilization capable of contemplating such action. Is deliberate annihilation ever justifiable, even if it guarantees survival? Do long-term survival calculations eclipse ethical constraints? For a species that seeks both survival and ethical integrity, these are wrenching trade-offs. But when the alternative is permanent non-existence, survival can become the overriding value, and utilitarian calculations of species survival may eclipse individual ethical intuitions. Finally, we must acknowledge the practical limits of preemptive strategies. Technical and logistical constraints, imperfect intelligence, and the difficulty of guaranteeing thorough annihilation all complicate the calculus. If a striker cannot be certain of removing all remnants, for example, hidden probes, seed banks, or resilient microsocieties, then preemption may not achieve its intended security. Moreover, the moral cost of genocide on an interstellar scale might generate internal resistance or cultural self-destruction within the striking civilization. The decision to preempt, then, is not purely instrumental. It carries ethical and existential consequences for the striker as well.
In short, preemptive defense logic in the Dark Forest is terrifying precisely because it is defensible by cold reason under reasonable assumptions. Irreversible stakes, asymmetric information, long-term uncertainty, and the absence of enforceable norms. If you cannot trust intentions, cannot negotiate in real time, and face the possibility that a nascent signal marks the rise of a future rival, the calculus that favors striking first is rational, even if it is morally horrific. That rationality helps explain why the cosmos might be silent. Civilizations that avoid speaking survive. Those that speak risk triggering a lethal logic no one can unilaterally stop. If the Dark Forest is truly real, if the universe is a vast expanse where every civilization must choose between silence or annihilation, then it follows naturally that survival depends not only on staying quiet, but on becoming invisible. This is where the concept of cosmic camouflage emerges. The idea that advanced civilizations, aware of the deadly logic of the cosmos, might develop technologies and strategies to hide themselves, their planets, and even their entire star systems from detection. In this grim yet logical vision of the universe, invisibility is not cowardice, it is evolution's highest form of intelligence. Cosmic camouflage is more than metaphor. It is the next step in cosmic natural selection. Just as animals on Earth evolved camouflage patterns, nocturnal behaviors, or deceptive mimicry to avoid predators, intelligent civilizations might develop technological analogs of these traits. They might deliberately suppress their electromagnetic emissions, cloak their thermal signatures, or even manipulate the very light emitted by their stars to blend into the cosmic background. In a galaxy where exposure could invite destruction, the ability to disappear is not just advantageous, it's essential. Let's start with the simplest form of cosmic camouflage: electromagnetic silence. A young civilization like ours emits enormous amounts of detectable energy: radio, microwave, radar, and television signals, all of which can travel through space and announce our presence to any species with sensitive enough receivers. But an older, wiser civilization would know better.
They might transition entirely to communication systems that are non-broadcast, such as laser-based transmissions, tight beam neutrino communication, or even quantum entanglement links, all of which are far harder to detect from afar. Over time, such a civilization's electromagnetic footprint would fade until it became indistinguishable from the background noise of the universe. From our perspective, they would simply vanish. Beyond communication, advanced civilizations could hide their planetary signatures, the natural signs of life and technology that astronomers like us search for. When we look for exoplanets that might harbor life, we search for biosignatures like oxygen, methane, or chlorophyll, and technosignatures like artificial lights, heat waste, or pollution. But a civilization practicing cosmic camouflage might deliberately mask or manipulate these indicators. They could alter their planet's atmosphere to appear barren, reduce industrial emissions to zero, or create artificial spectral patterns that mimic dead worlds. They might even cloak their night-side cities under massive orbital panels or redirect their waste heat in ways that disperse it uniformly into space, blending it into the cosmic background radiation. In the dark forest, the best hiding spot is one where even your shadow cannot be seen. Some theorists have even speculated about gravity-based cloaking, manipulating space-time itself to distort or redirect light and electromagnetic radiation, effectively making objects invisible at a cosmic scale. If a civilization mastered general relativity and quantum fields, they might create localized distortions that bend light around their planets, hiding them the way stealth aircraft deflect radar. To us, their system might appear as an unremarkable patch of dark space, indistinguishable from millions of others. In fact, some scientists have half-jokingly suggested that the missing data in our sky maps, those blank patches where we find less starlight than expected, could conceivably be regions where civilizations are actively concealing themselves. The most haunting aspect of cosmic camouflage isn't technological, it's psychological. It implies that most intelligent life in the universe has already realized the same terrifying truth. Visibility equals vulnerability. If civilizations have been rising and falling for billions of years, and if the few that survived learned to hide, then the apparent silence of the cosmos may be a form of collective camouflage, a galaxy-wide hush born of fear. Every species that learns enough to build a radio transmitter eventually learns to turn it off. The result is a quiet galaxy not because life is rare, but because life has learned to stay silent to survive. This also offers a plausible answer to the Fermi Paradox. Perhaps we see no signs of life because the signs are deliberately obscured. We assume we're searching an empty sky, but maybe what we're really looking at is a cosmic masquerade, a galaxy where everyone is hiding, and where silence isn't the absence of communication, but the presence of collective caution. The absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. It may be evidence of fear. For humanity, the concept of cosmic camouflage raises uncomfortable questions about our future. Should we follow this same evolutionary path? Should we deliberately make ourselves invisible? There are proposals, however theoretical, for Earth to suppress or scramble its own electromagnetic emissions, for satellites to act as shields that scatter our signals, or even for manipulating our planetary albedo to alter our optical signature. But such measures would require global cooperation and the acceptance of a grim reality that the best defense might not be weapons or alliances, but the willingness to disappear.
And yet, the very idea that we might need to hide speaks volumes about the nature of the cosmos. It paints a portrait of a universe not filled with wonder and connection, but with caution and quiet fear. A place where civilizations thrive not through exploration, but through concealment. Cosmic camouflage transforms the galaxy from a shining network of civilizations into a ghostly expanse of invisible watchers, each listening in the dark, each pretending not to exist. Perhaps the reason we have never heard a whisper from the stars is not because no one is there, but because everyone is holding their breath. They've learned what we are only beginning to understand, that in the cold, predatory silence of the universe, the safest sound is none at all. As we journey deeper into this unsettling logic of the cosmos,
From the dark forest to the idea of cosmic camouflage, a question begins to stir beneath all this silence. Why does it seem that no one ever makes it through? Why do we, surrounded by trillions of stars and uncountable worlds, find ourselves apparently alone? To answer that, we must confront one of the most haunting concepts in astrobiology, the Great Filter. The Great Filter is the hypothesis that somewhere along the path from lifeless matter to advanced spacefaring civilizations, there exists a barrier, a nearly impassable choke point that prevents life from progressing further. It's a cosmic sieve, sifting out almost every spark of intelligence before it can grow too bright. Perhaps it lies in the difficulty of life forming at all. Perhaps it's hidden in the leap from single-celled to multicellular organisms. Or maybe, most chillingly, the Great Filter waits at the end, the stage where civilizations, just as they begin to reach outward, are silenced. This idea dovetails perfectly with the dark forest theory. If the universe truly operates like a cosmic jungle filled with silent hunters, then the Great Filter might not be a natural accident of biology or environment. It could be an intentional process, a consequence of civilizations being systematically eliminated when they expose themselves. In other words, the filter isn't a natural barrier. It's an executioner. Imagine it. Civilizations rise, evolve, master technology, and, like us, gaze toward the heavens with wonder. They build telescopes, develop radio, and dream of contact. And then, full of hope, they call out. They send beacons, messages, and signals into the void, proof of life, intelligence, and ambition. But somewhere in that dark forest, something hears them. Something older, something more cautious. Maybe it's another civilization that long ago learned the cost of curiosity. Maybe it's an automated system, a machine left behind by beings that no longer exist. Whatever it is, it reacts to the sound, swiftly, efficiently, without emotion. One by one, those hopeful civilizations vanish. If that's true, then the Great Filter isn't behind us. It's ahead, and we may be rushing straight toward it. The implications are staggering. For decades, scientists have debated where the Great Filter might be located in the timeline of life. If it's in the past, if the emergence of life itself is nearly impossible, then we might be extraordinarily lucky to exist, and the cosmos could be mostly sterile. But if the filter is in the future, waiting for civilizations once they begin exploring or broadcasting, then our current trajectory is perilous. We might be walking into the same trap that countless others have before us, the final step that no civilization survives. This connection between the dark forest and the Great Filter reframes the entire cosmic silence. Maybe the reason we haven't heard anyone is because all those who spoke were destroyed. The galaxy could be littered with the remnants of civilizations, ruined worlds, abandoned machines, erased histories, the bones of those who dared to break the silence. We might be surrounded by ghost civilizations, wiped out long ago by forces or entities obeying nothing but the cold arithmetic of self-preservation. Consider this grim possibility. Perhaps the Great Filter is self-imposed. Maybe the fear of annihilation becomes so deeply embedded in the psyche of intelligent life that civilizations voluntarily retreat into silence or isolation. Some may even choose extinction rather than risk detection. In this view, the Great Filter doesn't just kill species, it breaks their spirit. It enforces quiet, not through violence, but through terror. The universe becomes a graveyard of civilizations that chose not to exist rather than to be found. The logic is almost Darwinian. Survival favors the cautious, not the curious. Species that stay silent survive. Those that speak are selected out. Cosmic natural selection,
Cosmic Darwinism ensures that over time, the only civilizations left are the hidden ones. The result? A galaxy filled with life that dares not reveal itself, each one watching the others through the narrow slit of fear. This interpretation also raises a deeply uncomfortable question for humanity. Have we already crossed the point of no return? We've been broadcasting our existence for over a century. Our radio signals have already spread nearly 100 light years from Earth, a faint but detectable bubble of information expanding through the galaxy. We've sent messages like the Arecibo message, the Pioneer plaques, and the Voyager golden records. Literal invitations to any listening intelligence with maps showing where to find us. If the Great Filter is triggered by such acts, then our fate may already be sealed. But perhaps there's another layer to the filter. Not destruction, but transformation. Maybe some civilizations find a way through by becoming something else, something unrecognizable to us. They may evolve beyond biology, beyond matter, into digital or energy-based life forms that no longer emit detectable signals. They might migrate into hidden dimensions or simulate their own realities, cutting themselves off from the physical universe entirely. To us, it would seem as if they vanished, but from their perspective, they escaped. In that sense, the Great Filter could also be a threshold of transcendence. It may separate civilizations that remain visible and vulnerable from those that achieve total concealment, the ultimate form of cosmic camouflage. Those who fail to hide are destroyed. Those who succeed become ghosts. Either way, silence prevails. And so, the Great Filter, far from being a single event, might be the ultimate manifestation of the Dark Forest's law. Every civilization either learns to vanish or becomes part of the silence left by those who didn't. The universe then isn't empty. It's full of absences, full of civilizations that were too loud, too bright, too hopeful. That's the true horror of the Great Filter. It's not that no one is out there. It's that everyone was, once. And they all made the same mistake. If the Great Filter, cosmic Darwinism, and the Dark Forest are real, then survival carries a profound loneliness that is almost unimaginable. Civilization at its core is about communication, exchange, and connection. But in a universe governed by existential caution, the very act of contact becomes the greatest threat. To survive is to isolate oneself, to withdraw into the shadows, and to forsake the natural human drive to explore, share, and reach out. Every civilization that endures must choose between the richness of interaction and the stark security of silence. And in doing so, it accepts a cosmic solitude deeper than any we have ever experienced on Earth.
Imagine an entire galaxy of civilizations, each listening intently, each monitoring the faint whispers of the cosmos, and yet each remaining completely silent. In such an environment, the cost of survival is social and intellectual starvation on an interstellar scale. Civilizations cannot collaborate, cannot exchange ideas, cannot explore the intellectual heights that come from encountering a peer. Every signal, every beacon, every transmission is a gamble with existential stakes. The winners in this environment are not the most curious or the most innovative, but the quietest, those willing to forego contact, to conceal their brilliance, and to exist unseen. Over millions of years, this produces not a network of thriving societies, but a galaxy of invisible observers, each aware that making a sound could end everything. The loneliness of survival manifests in more subtle ways as well. Within any given civilization, this enforced secrecy may extend inward, fostering suspicion, self-censorship, and even cultural stagnation. If survival requires constant vigilance,
If curiosity is potentially lethal, then the very traits that drive progress may be suppressed. Scientists, explorers, and visionaries may be constrained not by lack of imagination, but by the unforgiving knowledge that any outward expression of advancement might broadcast their location to unseen predators. This pressure could fundamentally alter societal development. Art may become internal, science may be cautiously pursued, and ambition may be tempered by a constant awareness of unseen threats. In short, the very survival of the species comes at the cost of its freedom. This solitude scales to the galactic level. The emptiness we perceive when we scan the skies, the absence of signals, the silence of the stars, might not reflect a lack of life, but a profound collective isolation. Each civilization exists as a solitary entity, aware that other intelligences exist, aware that they could communicate, but choosing restraint above connection. In this universe, the galaxy is a library of locked books, minds capable of infinite thought and expression, yet forbidden from interaction. The loneliness is universal, imposed not by physical distance, but by the imperative of survival. The human experience allows us a glimpse into this tragic cost. On Earth, isolation has psychological consequences. Individuals confined to solitude struggle with despair, cognitive decline, and emotional distress. If entire civilizations must live in enforced silence, their collective psyche could be shaped by this same kind of existential loneliness, an awareness that they are not alone, yet utterly unable to connect. They may record their knowledge and art only for themselves, hiding cultural treasures from potential observers. Intellectual and creative flourishing may continue internally, but the fundamental joy of shared discovery, the spark of intercivilizational dialogue, may be forever denied. Yet this loneliness is not entirely passive. It carries an existential weight that defines cosmic strategy. The dark forest enforces quiet not merely for survival, but as a condition of existence. Civilizations that attempt to speak risk annihilation. Those that remain silent endure, but at a tragic cost. The universe is populated not by vibrant exchanges or collaborative networks, but by entities that are, in a sense, alive yet alone, each listening, calculating, hiding, and waiting. It's a galaxy that functions, persists, and evolves, but one devoid of the communal joy that might have come from mutual awareness. Survival in the ultimate sense has become a form of isolation. Humanity, standing on the brink of interstellar awareness, faces the same dilemma. Our curiosity drives us to explore, to reach out, to send messages across the stars. But every act of broadcasting risks exposure, and in a universe that may operate according to dark forest logic, that exposure could be fatal. If the silence we perceive is indeed a strategy of survival, then following the path of those who came before may require us to forsake the very impulses that defined us, our desire to connect, to share, to communicate. The cost is high. We survive, but in a void where the potential for communion, collaboration, and shared wonder is extinguished. And yet, paradoxically, this loneliness itself may be a testament to intelligence. The civilizations that endure are the ones capable of strategic restraint, self-control, and foresight on scales that dwarf human comprehension. Their silence is not ignorance, it is knowledge, discipline, and survival instinct distilled to its essence. They are alone by necessity, hidden by choice, and perhaps wiser for it. Yet the emptiness surrounding them is as much a burden as it is a triumph. The galaxy may be alive with thought, but those thoughts are locked away, unheard, unseen, waiting for a time when survival no longer requires silence. The tragic beauty of this reality is that existence itself becomes the reward, and even that is fragile. To live, a civilization must sacrifice connection, curiosity, and visibility. In doing so, it gains no more than the chance to continue existing. A grim victory in a cosmos that demands constant vigilance and absolute discretion. The loneliness of survival is the price of persistence, the invisible shroud that covers the dark forest, and the reminder that in the vast theater of the galaxy, the most extraordinary creatures may be those who never speak, never signal, and never reveal themselves, yet endure against all odds. Humanity has always been defined by a profound tension between curiosity and caution, an internal duality that shapes our culture, technology, and even our species' survival. From the first humans who left the safety of their caves to explore unknown lands, to astronauts venturing into the void of space, we have a relentless urge to seek, to understand, and to connect. Curiosity drives innovation, art, science, and exploration. It is the force that compels us to lift our eyes to the stars and wonder whether we are alone. Yet alongside this impulse exists an equally powerful instinct, the drive to protect ourselves, to recognize danger, and to retreat from threats we cannot fully comprehend. This dual nature lies at the heart of humanity's dilemma in the dark forest of the cosmos. On one hand, curiosity is irresistible. It has allowed us to decode the secrets of DNA, land on the moon, and peer billions of light years into the universe. We are wired to seek patterns, to probe mysteries, and to extend our reach beyond the familiar. It is why we build enormous telescopes, launch interstellar probes, and even craft messages like the Voyager Golden Record and the Arecibo Message. These are acts of profound optimism, gestures of confidence that other intelligences might share our values, our excitement, and our curiosity. To be human is, in a sense, to assume that discovery is inherently good, that contact will be enlightening rather than lethal.
Yet this same curiosity that has propelled our civilization forward is what makes us vulnerable. The instinct for caution, honed over millennia of survival on a planet full of predators, reminds us that unseen dangers exist, that not every signal should be trusted, and that reaching out can invite consequences beyond our comprehension. The universe is vast, ancient, and indifferent. The dark forest theory and the great filter hypothesis suggest that intelligent life may survive precisely by remaining quiet and hidden, by resisting the urge to signal its presence. In this cosmic calculus, curiosity is not virtue, but exposure, a risk that could turn a civilization's greatest strength into a fatal weakness. This tension between curiosity and caution forces humanity to confront the stark question: are we explorers or are we prey? If the universe is truly a dark forest, then every signal we send, every probe we launch, every attempt at contact is not merely an experiment. It is a declaration of existence in a potentially hostile environment. Our exploratory impulse may be interpreted as a flare in the darkness, drawing the attention of entities far more advanced and indifferent than ourselves. Every step forward carries the potential for catastrophe. Yet the alternative, total retreat into silence, is a form of stagnation that may leave us vulnerable in other ways. In this sense, our dual nature becomes a cosmic dilemma. The urge to explore urges us to reach outward, to test the unknown, to fulfill the promise of curiosity that defines our species. The instinct to protect whispers caution, urging concealment, restraint, and the slow, deliberate observation of our surroundings. Both impulses are rational in their own contexts. Exploration drives growth and understanding. Caution preserves survival. Yet, in the framework of the dark forest, these instincts are in conflict, and choosing between them is not simply a matter of ethics or desire. It is a question of existential risk. The tension is also psychological and cultural. Humanity is fascinated by the unknown. We tell stories of alien contact, of discovery, and of adventure across the stars. We celebrate the pioneers and visionaries who risk everything for the sake of knowledge.
But we also construct myths and cautionary tales about hubris, about civilizations destroyed because they reached too far or acted too boldly. Our history on Earth is a microcosm of this struggle. Explorers who discovered new lands sometimes enriched humanity, but often brought devastation to those they encountered. Curiosity can lead to enlightenment or to extinction. Science itself reflects this duality. The very institutions that study the universe operate on two contradictory principles: to seek knowledge relentlessly, yet to respect the limits of understanding and safety. Advocates of messaging extraterrestrial intelligence, argue that humanity should broadcast boldly, embracing the possibility of contact for the sake of progress and interstellar friendship. Opponents, including voices like Stephen Hawking, warn that such acts could invite annihilation. Both positions are valid under human reasoning, yet the dark forest and great filter frameworks tilt the balance toward caution, suggesting that our instinct to explore may be far more dangerous than we imagine. This duality forces a sobering reflection. If the universe is populated by civilizations that have survived, they likely did so not because they were bold or outgoing, but because they were strategically cautious. Their survival may have required suppressing curiosity, remaining unseen, and avoiding any unnecessary risk. By contrast, humanity's boldness in broadcasting and probing may make us conspicuously vulnerable. In the cosmic hierarchy of survival, we may be among the loudest and most exposed, the curious child wandering into the predator's shadow, unaware of the danger. Yet, there is also a philosophical and moral dimension. To forgo exploration entirely is to surrender a core aspect of what it means to be human. To live entirely in fear may preserve our lives, but it risks extinguishing the very qualities that make our species remarkable: creativity, inquiry, and wonder. The choice is stark. We can embrace our nature as explorers and accept the potential consequences, or we can prioritize survival above all else, sacrificing curiosity to remain hidden. In the dark forest, either path carries enormous weight, and the stakes could not be higher. Ultimately, the contrast between human curiosity and cosmic caution is a reflection of our existential dilemma. We are explorers, compelled to understand and reach out. We are prey, vulnerable to predators whose existence we cannot verify. Each choice resonates across millennia, determining whether humanity will remain a visible and potentially endangered civilization or adapt, survive, and perhaps fade quietly into the shadows. In the dark forest of the universe, curiosity may light the way, or it may light the fuse of destruction. The debate over whether humanity should actively reach out to extraterrestrial intelligence is far from settled, and it highlights the stark tension between curiosity and caution that defines our species. On one side, voices like Stephen Hawking have issued grave warnings about the risks of broadcasting our presence. Hawking argued that contacting advanced civilizations could be catastrophic, comparing potential encounters to the European colonization of the Americas, a seemingly inevitable disaster for less technologically advanced societies. In his view, an alien civilization with superior technology might view Earth as a resource, a threat, or simply a target for elimination. Every message we send, no matter how well-intentioned, could be interpreted as a flare signaling our location, leaving us exposed in a universe governed by uncertainty and the ruthless calculus of survival. From this perspective, silence is the safest course, the only rational strategy in a cosmos where even benevolent intentions cannot be trusted. This cautionary stance is supported by proponents of the dark forest theory, who argue that evolutionary pressures favor civilizations that remain hidden. To them, the galaxy's apparent emptiness is not evidence of lifelessness, but prudence. Civilizations that are noisy, that signal their existence prematurely, are selected against. In this framework, the very act of sending a message could place humanity at existential risk, as we have no reliable way to assess the intentions, capabilities, or ethics of any civilization that might detect us. Silence, they argue, is a defensive necessity, a strategy refined over cosmic timescales that preserves life in a fundamentally hostile environment. On the other side of the debate are scientists and visionaries who argue that silence may come at a cost, namely stagnation. Organizations like METI International advocate for active messaging, positing that reaching out could lead to knowledge exchange, technological advancement, and the possibility of establishing peaceful interstellar relations. From this perspective, the worst outcome of complete silence is not extinction, but isolation. A civilization trapped in its own technological bubble, unaware of broader cosmic truths and deprived of opportunities to collaborate with or learn from other intelligences. Proponents argue that fear of hypothetical dangers should not paralyze progress, and that measured strategic contact might allow humanity to participate in a universe far richer than our own.
There is also a practical argument in favor of messaging. Given the immensity of space, even if civilizations are rare, proactive signals may be the only way to establish contact. Earth has already unintentionally leaked electromagnetic signals for over a century, meaning that our presence is not entirely hidden. Advocates of outreach suggest that deliberate, carefully crafted transmissions could provide context, a way to frame ourselves as explorers rather than threats. In theory, this could reduce the likelihood of misunderstanding by presenting a clear, intelligible depiction of our species, including our values, ethics, and technological limitations. The debate also intersects with ethics and philosophy. Should a small subset of humanity have the authority to decide whether the entire planet risks exposure to unknown entities? Is caution truly protective if it stifles curiosity and intellectual growth? Conversely, is boldness truly noble if it invites potential annihilation? These questions do not have easy answers, and the lack of empirical data on extraterrestrial behavior leaves the debate in a largely speculative realm. Each side appeals to plausible reasoning. One warns of catastrophic asymmetry and the impossibility of trusting alien intentions, while the other emphasizes potential opportunity and the dangers of self-imposed isolation. Ultimately, this debate illustrates a core tension of human civilization at the dawn of interstellar awareness, the choice between exploration and self-preservation. Hawking's cautionary advice serves as a stark reminder of the risks inherent in revealing ourselves, grounded in historical analogies and the logic of the dark forest. Meanwhile, advocates for outreach remind us that fear can be as limiting as danger, and that the universe may hold knowledge, cooperation, or advancement that can only be accessed by daring to speak. Humanity stands at the intersection of these paths, and the decision we make could shape our future for millennia, determining whether we remain silent in isolation or venture into a dialogue that carries both extraordinary promise and existential peril. The ongoing debates underscore a profound truth. The universe offers no guarantees. Every act of communication is both a possibility and a risk, every signal both an opportunity and a potential death knell. The choice between silence and outreach is not merely scientific, it is existential, forcing us to confront the paradox that defines our species, that our greatest strength, our curiosity, may also be our most dangerous vulnerability. As we approach the precipice of decision, the implications of our actions crystallize into a stark, almost unbearable tension. Every flicker of curiosity, every impulse to reach out beyond our small blue planet, carries consequences we cannot fully predict. Humanity is at a crossroads, and the universe is watching in its silence, indifferent expense. The next beacon we send into the cosmos may seem innocuous, a greeting, a simple hello from a fledgling civilization reaching for understanding. Yet, in the unforgiving logic of the dark forest, that very signal may be interpreted not as a call for friendship, but as a declaration of vulnerability, a flare announcing our location to unknown predators. The optimism that fuels our exploration could be indistinguishable from recklessness, and the stakes could not be higher. Consider the journey of our own broadcasts. Our radio waves have been leaking into space for more than a century, expanding outward at the speed of light in a growing sphere of awareness. Each transmission, our music,
television signals, radar pings, is a breadcrumb tracing back to Earth. To any sufficiently advanced civilization capable of intercepting these signals, we have already exposed ourselves, mapped our location, and revealed hints of our technological capabilities. Sending another deliberate message now does not merely add to this footprint. It sharpens the contrast, draws attention, and perhaps transforms our quiet bubble into a target. The next step could be a cosmic invitation with consequences we are powerless to reverse. The warning is subtle but profound. The universe does not operate on our moral frameworks. There are no guarantees that an advanced civilization shares our understanding of ethics or that it values life as we do. Even if such a civilization harbors no malice, it might act preemptively out of caution, uncertainty, or survival instinct. The simple act of making ourselves known could trigger a chain of events that escalates beyond our comprehension. A civilization millions of years ahead of us might see the risk we pose in the future and decide to eliminate it before we grow stronger, a rational act within its frame of reference, but one that would mean the total annihilation of humanity. History on Earth offers chilling analogies. When advanced civilizations encountered those less technologically equipped, the outcomes were rarely benevolent. Entire cultures were erased, populations decimated, and knowledge lost, often not out of malice, but because the disparity in power created inevitable danger. Now scale that disparity to the cosmic level. A civilization capable of interstellar reach, operating on timescales we cannot fathom, might regard humanity not with curiosity, but with caution so severe that survival depends on immediate action. The signals we send may be interpreted as markers of risk, and their best intentions could be fatal. Even our attempts to communicate intelligently may not protect us. Messages like the Arecibo transmission or the Voyager Golden Record are designed to convey knowledge, culture, and goodwill. Yet from the perspective of an alien observer, these signals could reveal strategic vulnerabilities, biological information, or technical capabilities that make us an unpredictable entity in the galactic landscape. What we intend as a greeting, they might interpret as a beacon of opportunity or threat. Every carefully coded diagram, every depiction of our civilization could be the very thing that seals our fate. This is why the warning must be explicit. The decision to send another beacon is not a trivial one. It is an act with stakes that exceed imagination, with consequences that could echo across millennia. We are playing a game with invisible rules against opponents we cannot see, and the cost of error may be existential. Every human instinct that urges us to explore, to reach out, to connect, must now be weighed against the possibility that the universe is not waiting to answer our call. It is waiting, silently and patiently, to respond in a way we may not survive. The tension is suffocating because the outcome is unknowable. We cannot negotiate, reason, or appeal to cosmic ethics. There is no higher authority to enforce peace, no guarantee of benevolence, and no chance to undo a mistake. To signal or to remain silent is to choose between two forms of risk. One, the slow erosion of potential knowledge and contact. The other, the instantaneous eradication of everything we have built, everything we are. In the dark forest of the cosmos, speaking may be tantamount to declaring your existence to a hunter who knows how to strike without warning. As the possibility of first contact looms closer, the gravity of our position becomes undeniable. Humanity must confront a paradox that defines the survival of all intelligent species. The desire to reach out is inseparable from the danger of exposure. Every scientific or cultural message sent to the stars carries with it the weight of imaginable risk. Our curiosity, ingenuity, and optimism, qualities that have propelled us through millennia, could now be the very forces that draw the eyes of predators. The universe, in its infinite vastness, does not reward bravery. It rewards discretion. And so, as we consider the next transmission, the next deliberate signal, the next attempt to say hello, we must ask ourselves, are we prepared to face what might come in response? Are we ready to gamble the existence of our species on the hope that the universe will answer kindly? Or are we stepping into a trap laid by our own assumptions? The assumption that being seen is inherently safe, that curiosity carries no existential cost. The truth is stark, uncomfortable, and unavoidable. The next beacon we send may not merely be a greeting, it may be a death warrant.
And so, after all the calculations, all the speculations, all the warnings and ponderings, we arrive at the most profound and unnerving question of all. The cosmos stretches endlessly in every direction, filled with stars, planets, and possibilities we can scarcely comprehend. We have weighed curiosity against caution, boldness against survival, hope against fear. We have glimpsed the logic of the dark forest, traced the shadows of civilizations that may have vanished for daring to speak, and considered the chilling implications of the great filter. We have imagined what it might mean to hide, to cloak ourselves, to exist unseen amidst countless silent observers. And yet here we stand, capable of reaching outward, capable of making a choice whose consequences could span millennia. And now, in the quiet that follows all reflection, the question lingers, almost a whisper against the void. In the dark forest of the universe, are we the hunters or the prey? The words hang, unanswered, as the stars continue to shine indifferently above. Every decision, every signal, every pulse of curiosity or caution echoes through the cold expanse. The silence that envelops us is not merely the absence of sound, but the presence of infinite possibilities, some promising, some lethal. Whether we will emerge as explorers, finding connection and knowledge, or as prey, extinguished before we can even fully comprehend the dangers surrounding us, remains unknown. The galaxy waits, patient and impartial, its dark forest stretching beyond the reach of human imagination. This video is for educational or entertainment purposes only, and information provided in the video may be incorrect. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing to the channel and like the video.